We love to see Jack when he comes. We know that he used to live a little south of here. We know that he's done a lot of important work down in Florida, and that he told me that it's good to come here. But he also said, you better have some good music. Did we have good music? Yes. Dr. Jack McCants has done a lot of work. He's lived in a lot of places. He's going to tell you a little bit about service, but you know that he served for many years on the National Spiritual Assembly and that everybody loves him. So he's still working on that. Got it. Okay. He's coming up now to talk to us. We love you, Jack. Welcome, Dr. Jack McCants.
Go ahead and speak. Thank you very much. I always feel like that's what Baha'u'llah is going to do to me when I pass on the next world. I'm going to push a button. And then what happens, I don't know. I'd like, if you permit me to, I'd like to open with a prayer tonight, please. O thou forgiving Lord, thou art the shelter of all these thy servants. Thou knowest the secrets and art aware of all things. We are all helpless, and thou art the mighty, the omnipotent. We are all sinners, and thou art the forgiver of sins, the merciful, the compassionate. O Lord, look not at our shortcomings. Deal with us according to thy grace and bounty. Our shortcomings are many, but the ocean of thy forgiveness is boundless. Our weakness is grievous, but the evidences of thine aid and assistance are clear. Therefore, confirm and strengthen us. Enable us to do that which is worthy of thy holy threshold. Illumine our hearts. Grant us discerning eyes and attentive ears. Resuscitate the dead and heal the sick. Bestow wealth upon the poor and give peace and security to the fearful. Accept us in thy kingdom and illumine us with the light of guidance. Thou art the powerful and the omnipotent. Thou art the generous. Thou art the clement. Thou art the kind. You know, this is a serious meeting tonight. They're asking people to sacrifice their life to Baha'u'llah. And there's no joke to this business. I pioneered almost 9 years. And it was the happiest time of my life. I've never had anything in my life that was day by day by day by day that fulfilling for one simple reason. It was the hardest thing I ever did. If I hadn't clung to Baha'u'llah's coattail, I'd never survived it. Man, I had to pray the paint off the wall to stand there sometimes. It was hard. I think sometimes people don't think about that. But friends, it's the happiest time in your life when you're close to God. There is nothing equal to it. There's nothing like it. I've served on more than one NSA in this country and out. As a board member, both under the counters and the hands. I've seen a lot of people. I knew half the people on that screen tonight. But I'll tell you one thing. I don't know how many of you noticed, most of them were women. You notice it? When I was in the Pacific, every night of Baha'u'llah was a woman except one man. And he was married to a woman. They both were. I'm telling you, Virginia Breach's picture up there. That's the greatest woman I ever knew in my life. She was an angel's angel. Now, Barbara's teasing me about saying that business about music, but I'm serious about it. Thank God for you guys for coming and singing. Most Baha'is can't sing at all. My God, it sounded like a funeral most places I go. Thank God you came here and sang some life in this place, you know. For heaven's sakes. There's a wonderful tablet of Abdu'l-Baha, I should have brought it, where he talks about having music before you speak because it opens people's hearts. Nobody can listen to you guys without their heart opening up, man. I learned it 2 times in my life. One time in Memphis, Tennessee, I had a huge meeting up there at that St. Jude's Hospital. You know, it's about 50% black population, 50% white. All these people in there. And I walked in just trying to size up the audience because I was a big dog speaker, you know. And I saw right across the middle of that room 2 rows of these people. Just all these look like about 45, 55-year-old white Anglo-Saxon Protestant types. You know, just like they just squeezed all the sausage juice out of them. You know. And I said to Baha'u'llah, I said, in the name of God, what can I do for these folks? You know, that's serious business. You're talking for Baha'u'llah. And they had that wonderful Tennessee choir. What's that guy's name that's the director of that thing? Tom Price. Met his mama down in Australia. She's wonderful too. I'm telling you, they were singing the most beautiful song. And those people, I thought, my God, Baha'u'llah, what am I going to do? You know, these people are going to kill me. And then all of a sudden, Dash Cross, remember Dash? Jim Seal's buddy? He was in the back row. He comes walking around, stands up in front. And he sings the Lord's Prayer, the most beautiful I have ever heard it in my life. My God, those people melted like hot butter, man. I could have said anything. I learned a good lesson. And it wasn't 3 weeks. There was a conference at a little old place up in Maryland, somewhere we call Massanetta. I went up there, Mr. Kadim Mahan was there. And Van Gilmer, a guy who works in the National Center now, sang Amazing Grace. Man, if there's any dead folks there, they rose right up out of that grave. I mean, that was a resuscitation of the dead. And I told Barbara, and I mean it, I'm not going to ever make any public talk again with that good music. I can just keep it. I'm not doing it, friend. People have to hear this something in life. I stood up here in Canada one time with Bill Sears. He had all these people up there. Place he called The Gathering, he and his wife. And everybody's out there before the sun got up saying prayers, saying prayer. I'm just like a piece of steel, you know, it just nothing. And all of a sudden, some young girl sang a prayer. It set my soul on fire. She sang it. Now, I would like to read you just one simple sentence out of the Baha'i writings and tell you why I'm reading it to you, because many of you are sitting on a fence tonight. You're not only not thinking about pioneering, you're not thinking. I mean, we're not going to hell in a handbasket. We ain't even got a handbasket anymore. Anywhere you go in the world, they got trouble. You can't get away from it. Now listen to what Baha'u'llah says. This is on page 271 in Gleanings. No man that seeketh us will we ever disappoint. Neither shall he that hath set his face towards us be denied access unto our court. And at least from my experience as Baha'i, the best way to experience that for yourself is pioneer. There is nothing like it. So you're going to get to know Baha'u'llah, or you're not going to make it. John said, tell them all the good stuff. Well, there's a lot of good stuff. But I'm telling you, that's when you get close to Baha'u'llah, when you get down and you really have to pray. Now, I'm old. I'm almost 81. And I've taken serious this being in Baha'u'llah. You know, you're fixing to move on to the next world. You're going to be around 20 years. I'm not, friend. And I was reading in one of the Baha'i writings recently where Baha'u'llah said, no man knoweth what his own end shall be. I'm talking to you too, you 63. No man knoweth what his own end shall be. How oft at the hour of death hath the most devout believer fallen into the nethermost fire. That's serious business, friend. I don't care what you've done to serve God. You don't have it made either. So, you know me, must have a file like this thick, House of Justice on me, because every time I get a problem I can't solve, I write them. And they've saved me over and over and over. I'm going to take up your time telling the stories. But I wrote and asked him, is there any prayer to say? Any prayer to say when you're dying, or your friends to say for you, to protect you from falling in the nethermost fire. And I like to read this to you. This is what they sent me in a long letter, but this is a quote. I've never read it in a book we have here. Perhaps it's in one. I just didn't see it, but I never read it. But I thank God for it because, you know, you get awful tired in this life. And here's what he says. This is from Abdu'l-Baha. Shouldst thou recite any of the revealed prayers, and seek assistance from God with thy face turned towards him, and implore him with devotion and fervor, thy need will be answered. If there was ever a quote for you potential pioneers and you folks that's going pioneering, that's it, friend. If you're out there to serve Baha'u'llah, your need's going to be answered. It's going to be. And he's going to test you. As sure as you arise to serve him, the first prayer I ever learned in this religion in my life, I've been Baha'i 53 years, was a little prayer of the Babs. Say, God will assist all those who arise to serve him. That's all we have. And that's it, if you're going to pioneer. Now, I know this is the sweetest, nicest thing I've ever seen leading into a pioneer meeting in my life. I don't know who did that, but God bless him. I saw you had Red Grammer's name tacked on part of it. Well, whoever thought that too, you know that touched your heart. Else you're dead if you're going home. Get out. You know, that's wonderful what they did through art and music. But tonight, I'm going to give you two quotes, and you think about them. One from the Guardian, the faith of Baha'u'llah, that priceless gem of divine revelation, enshrining the Spirit of God and incarnating his purpose for mankind in this age. And then for me, because my background is Christian, this is the greatest sentence for a person from my background in the Guardian's writings. He's talking about Baha'u'llah as he's going into the Garden of Rizwan. Jesus Christ, returned in the glory of the Father, was about to ascend his throne and assume the scepter of a world-embracing, indestructible sovereignty. And thank God I lived to see it in 1963, and I was over in London. Now these goals they're talking about, I don't know if you know these people up here, these Knights of Baha'u'llah. Shoghi Effendi, writing in his own writing, said, Ella Bailey sanctified the World Crusade with her death. She's buried in North Africa. And he said when those people arose in 1953, it was the inception of the kingdom of God on earth. Think about it. How about that? Now, I don't know your life. It's none of my business. But if you men are undecided what to do, don't worry about it. Your wife will tell you before you get home. You don't have to worry about it, you see. So I'm going to talk to your wives tonight, you see, because you can guide these men in the right way. You know. The greatest need in the world in some of these countries is for someone just like you. The average person really doesn't sit down and say, what can I do? You know. I think the greatest thing in the world a person can do is to decide for himself or herself. What's the greatest service I can do for Baha'u'llah? And that's nobody's business except you and Baha'u'llah. You have a destiny. And some of you, God created a pioneer as sure as he is Baha'u'llah. And you need to find out, are you the one? I had with Joanna, my colleague here, incidentally, she's one of the greatest servants of the faith ever in the history of this country. Of course, she'll say, well, but this is the truth of it. Because she served at the National Center for over 20 years. And she has to be, got scars all over her. You don't serve in the secretary's office without folks shooting at you, sticking knives in you, stomping on you, and everything else. And if you're a secretary of a local assembly, you know what I mean. You're going to catch it. Anything that goes wrong, it's your fault. Now, she served the faith all these years, but unknown to many of you, I'll use the word as I understand it, not the way but she's an expert on China. You and I are not. She's been all over China many, many, many times, worked with Chinese government, lay people, men, women, everybody, all of cold country, hot country, everywhere. She's just back with a husband from there. And she's done that all on her own, same time serving on your National Assembly. So we are very, very lucky to have her here tonight to ask her a question. Because the House really wants these pioneers in China. This is no game, friend. I don't know if you know it. Most of you do. Those are the words of Abdul Baha that were quoted up there about going to China. You want to follow in the footsteps of the Master? Pack it in. Go. But I shared with the pioneers who were potentially going tonight with Joanna something Handle the Cause Fazey told me. And for me, I thank God 1,000,000 times for it. I didn't know it. I didn't know it. I was secretary of that NSA down in Samoa. And we had some of the most wonderful people come as pioneers, and they should never have gone there, man. They weren't cut out to go in a place like that. It was the 10th poorest country in the world. They just didn't belong there. But there was somewhere else they could have gone that'd been a perfect fit. And Fazey looked me straight in the eye and he said, Jack, nobody wants to be around a miserable pioneer. And man, I'm secretary of NSA, I know that. And he said, tell every person that's thinking of pioneering, you pick a culture that you love, that you like. And you pick a physical climate that you like. You don't have to make yourself like it. You like it. You just like it. I was teasing Gene back there tonight early because I know Hooper and he knows Hooper well, Dunbar. He loves Argentina. Well, suppose he spent his life in California where he came from. He'd never know he loved it. If you're miserable where you are, pioneer, you might find somewhere you like. I saw people that Mahajer and Featherstone both picked up here and moved over here. They were miserable where they were. They were as happy as a hog in slop out wheeze in them. Man, they loved it because they put them now where they could do what they could really do and do well and be loved by the people for it. Now, you look serious to me. Don't loosen up those arms because you're scaring me now. I can't hug you and shake your hand when you're wrapped up like that. But we're serious here tonight. We need pioneers. INSA waited too long to get on this ticket. Joanne is going to report me for saying that, but we waited too long. If it hadn't been for these old boys beating the drum for us tonight, we didn't have a chance. Now, some of you are ready to launch off. Get up and go. All you got to do is talk to Barbara tonight, get your name on the list, and start packing to go. You don't have to take this forever and ever and ever. You look like a good pioneer to me. It's so good. Yes, you just do. You just got the look, you know. Brother Wigfall back there, he's going to Ghana, for God's sake. I saw a warrior back here. He and his wife are going down to Ecuador. Is that Ecuador? Where are you going? Ecuador. I can't even say the word right, and he's going. You know. Have you ever thought about going? You're a young warrior. You could go. You don't know. They got schools where you go. You don't know. Oh. He's going to India, this old boy right there. He's from New Jersey. Can you imagine anybody going from pioneer from New Jersey over there? I think that in itself is a thrill. To get somebody out of New Jersey is wonderful. I think it's magnificent. He wouldn't be laughing if it wasn't true, you know. Now, I see a lot of you folks look like you're Persians. You know what the word In your country, means Raffaday, you know what that means? You're a rejecter, you know, you're resistant. Don't be a Raffaday with this tonight. Don't reject what I'm saying. Think about it. It might be a place for you over there. You don't know. You don't know. We need teachers here, but not like they do in many countries. We desperately need teachers here, but not like there. You know. Now, friend, I don't play games and stuff. I'm a fisherman. I've fished all my life, but I don't use worms to catch bass because they're not going to bite it. And I don't use minnows to catch brim because they don't bite them. I use the right bait. And the question is, what do you like? What do you really like doing? What do you love doing? What do you just love doing, man? I pioneered for a while in the Caribbean. It wasn't my cup of tea. It's all right. Good people, loved them. It just wasn't me. Went down and visited Ahmadiyya down in Belize. It was all right. It wasn't me. Bill Sears called me to go to Africa. I went over and lived with he and Marguerite a while. It's all right. It wasn't me. But then Bill sent me to the Pacific. My God, have mercy. Jesus Christ and all his angels, man. I was in heaven as soon as my feet hit the ground. Man, I was home. Here in St. Petersburg, if you guys stay at a Baha'i meeting past 10:30, they'll have you before the NSA to remove your voting rights. Don't you jerk. You can sit there and talk all night about spiritual things out in those islands. And it's wonderful. I was in heaven. You missed the bus in the morning. Who cares? It'll be another one tomorrow. Don't worry about it. I was home. If I had never gone, I'd never known there's a place like that in the world. I'd never known it. I'd never known it. But people are different. I used to tell Velma Sherrill, she's blessed and gone. Used to be a counselor. She loved living in a big city, lived in St. Louis. It's wonderful. I couldn't stand that, you know. But God loved Velma, made her a counselor, made her suffer even more than she wasn't suffering. Now, this old boy you hear, he is, come up here with me. Come on, Bill. You see, this man, you should have heard him tonight. He was testifying. You know, he was testifying, and weren't you testifying?
You bet.
Amen. Yes. Absolutely. There you go.
One more time.
There you go. Oh, it's good. It's good. It's good. That's right. There you go. See there? Now the committee's just trying to figure out where in the world can we send this man? And he, oh, man, I tell you, we need people like him. Now, I've known some of the best people in my life who are Baha'i, and they've never said a word about Baha'u'llah to nobody. I know a woman that died recently, and I bet she prayed all the paint off the walls of heaven, but she didn't say anything about Baha'u'llah. I don't know what they were doing, man. You got to somehow say something about it. Now, come up here. Come on. You are so pretty. I need a pretty girl up here for me. A pretty young girl. Guess where this woman is from? Guess where she's from? Tell them where you're from. Indiana. Where? Bloomington. God knows that big Ohio school. First time I ever met Hooper Dunbar. What was he doing? Running around the track of that big school in Bloomington, Indiana. Yes. Yes. First time I ever in my life heard this member of the House who started all this Ruhi stuff. What's his name? Arbaugh. Was in Bloomington, Indiana. Yes. She comes from a place where there's been a lot of wonderful Baha'i, but nobody, seriously, is more wonderful than this lady. Because she's here in Baha'u'llah now, saying, come. Here. And she came all the way down here to put her oar in the water, and she's going to pioneer to Brazil, for heaven's sakes. She's learning Portuguese already. I know a lot of you people like Gene speaks his Argentine Spanish. He must be miserable. He's not getting his pretty girl down in Argentina. But it's too late for you, Gene. Thank you. You see? We have, in this faith, in this country, hundreds of people that if they knew the need, they're serious. Just like many of you are serious behind. You have no idea what you can give to the faith in a pioneer place. You really don't. Till you get out there and it's just you and those souls and Baha'u'llah. Man, I have been through so many countries, 30-something of them. Pioneered in some of them. Travel taught in some of them. I can't think of any country there that couldn't benefit from you folks. Every one of you. If you think you're old, you're not old. If you can grunt, see lightning, and hear thunder, behold, I want you. You know. Tonight they were telling me, Barbara was telling me, there's a 88-year-old woman arising to Pioneer now. Now, you know, I bet the people in the concourse are just having a dance over that old lady. Why? Because Ella Bailey, she was old. And the guardian said, go. And she lived out there in Joanna's country in California. And all her little community said, oh, Ella, don't go. He's not talking about you going. This is in 53. And Ella said, I'm going. You know, when she was a young woman, she met Abba-Bahá back in 1912. And they tried to talk about Leroy Ivas ahead and told me this whole story. And she started off, she's going. This old woman. Got to New York City, ice storm, fell, broke her hip, laying up there in traction. Oh, I see the people back over there in California. That's a fancy version of backbiting. Oh, you know, Bahala saved poor Ella, saved Ella. Oh, thank God. Oh, my God. Then here come this lovely Baha'i couple from Arizona, Ulix. Remember Ulix, Robert Ulix and his wife? Bahia. Ella, you want to go with us to North Africa? Yeah. They put her in a scooter thing, wheeled her in there, all broken up, and took her to North Africa. Oh, yeah. Leroy told me this story, had tears in his eyes. He said, one day I'm sitting in the office with the Shoghi Effendi, and we get a letter. Ella Bailey has died in North Africa, 3 weeks in the ground. You could just hear those folks in California. Oh, I told you, what a bad mistake. Must be the Ulix. Well, what did the guardian, Shoghi Effendi said? The guardian had tears in his eyes, and he said, my heroine, my heroine. He said, I will pay for her memorial place in North Africa. I will pay for it. And later in one of his messages, he said, in the 10-year world-embracing crusade, the inception of the kingdom of God on earth, sanctified by the death of Ella Bailey, pioneer. Because she heard Baha'u'llah calling. She heard him. And she said, yes, my Lord. Yes, my Lord. Yes, my Lord. Now, if any of you have ever thought about pioneering in your life, I hope you think about it tonight. Joanna came all the way to California to help raise this banner because Barbara's sort of desperate. You know, she's so sweet and so nice. She won't tell you they're behind her. Let's go. We need Baha'is. Baha'u'llah needs Baha'is. We need them now. We don't need them next year. Now, you read the message, the appointment of the councils. You see, it said these councils are being called to Haifa between December 28th to the 1st of January for what? To help the Baha'is achieve their goals. What, Rizwan? Come on, we've got some goals to achieve tonight. You look like a good man to me. Stand up and hug me. I'll give you a hard time tonight. I learned this from Mahajer. You know what Mahajer told me? No. You ever been to Hamilton, Ontario? It's a big town down below Toronto, about 50,000, half a million people. It's a big city. You know, Canadians are more reserved than we are, right? For sure more reserved than Texans, that's for sure. And Mahajer needed 5 pioneers, and he just went around and said, can you go? And he went, well, why not? He ticked off a lot of people there that night, but he got his pioneers and they stayed. Yes. Yes, they stayed. I was in the Philippines pioneering, and all of a sudden Mahajer calls on the telephone. And he said, I need 3 NSA members to pioneer. Put them in Africa in that little country down there. Just Ceylon used to be. I don't know what they call it now. Gone. I met a lady the other day. She's still down there in Ceylon. How'd you like if a hand they called picked you up and put you down somewhere like that, huh? It happened to Jack. He did. Yes. Bill Sears did that. That's awful for a hand of the cost to do that. What are you going to say? No to the hand? No. Not only that, he told me where to go. I didn't even get a chance. And it was tough when I got there. But I don't think Bill had any guilty conscience about it. He felt very happy with the fact of it. I can't do that. I'm no hand of the cause. I'm not even a fingernail. But I'm telling you, Baha'u'llah needs you. You music guys, you know, if you went around the places I've been playing like that, we could enroll 500,000 people, man. You guys got the Holy Spirit in that drum beat. You could just feel it walking in here. I didn't have to say anything. He could dance. You heard him. Baha'u'llah, for God's sake, get up and move, man. Now look, you don't look happy. You got to look happy. This is a Baha'i meeting. No happiness, no Baha'i. You know that. You know that. Baha'u'llah wants you. Oh, he looks so comfortable. The most wonderful Baha'is in the world are those who are comfortable. Because Baha'u'llah wants to make them uncomfortable. And he can do that. He can reach right down to you and say, you should have heard this lady testify in there at that meeting tonight. She's telling the most wonderful thing, how this lady just, her car drove herself right into the Baha'i Center, how she's becoming a Baha'i. My God, you could feel the Holy Spirit. Boom, 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 boom. Couldn't you? Look at this lady. She's been in Belize. You know where Belize is? Nobody else knows but God. I've been down there. If you want to be close to God, move to Belize. Because only he and the concourse know where it is. It used to be British Honduras. I want to close my thoughts with telling you about the greatest pioneer I ever knew, other than Virginia Briggs. And that was a guy named Hedy Ahmadiyya. He became a counselor. You may know him from that, but I knew him long before that. Mr. Qadim appointed me a board member. I don't know why. I think God chooses the dumb and the ignorant and the stupid and the crippled and just says if you can get anything done, they've got to give credit to God because they know you didn't do it, right? So he picked me and made me a board member and sent me off to Nashville, Tennessee. And it was Grand Ole Opry time, Hank Williams country. I didn't even know who Hank Williams was, and Mr. Williams and Mrs. Williams. And I go in there and I get in a little apartment building, and next door to me is this Persian doctor, Hedy Ahmadiyya. Yeah, a pediatrician. Smart. He was a pediatrician. He was board certified. The year he took the test in this country, he made the highest grade in the United States of America on it. But all these years ago, those of you older behind me, those little greenback teaching books, that's Hedy Ahmadiyya doing with Haynes McFadden. The only reason they did put a greenback on the paper they could get out of a Kroger store, that's all. That's right. Don't frown. That's the way it happened. Yes. It's the way it was. Hedy comes in here, and he goes, and he falls in love. My God, I tell you the name of the woman, but she's well known too, and so is her husband. He's written a Baha'i book, Serve the Faith, wonderful. But he wasn't more into Baha'i back then in those days. The guy she eventually married was an atheist. And Baha'u'llah just laughed about that. Oh boy, what do you mean atheist? Made him one of the best Baha'is we've ever had. But Hedy loved this girl. And she was going to Pioneer. She was a nurse, trained over in Scotland. Can you imagine a Persian nurse training in Scotland? You got to be a little off to do that anyway, right? She's a midwife. She goes, comes over here. I meet her, introduce Hedy. Googly, gone. And she's going to Pioneer. We have a little teaching institute called the Leroy Iowes Teaching Institute in Fort Worth. She comes, makes a few talks. Here's old Hedy. She's gone to Belize. Only one Belize in British Honduras, right? Little bitty country. None of us knew where it was. So Hedy's just desperate. What's he going to do? He had an old Chevrolet. That's all he had. He didn't have much money. He'd been teaching Meharry Medical School up there in Nashville. Low pay, serving the cause. Well, he takes his old Chevy, and here he goes to British Honduras. Yes, he's going to Pioneer. But he's got mixed motive. It's this girl. Well, they're there for a little while. Oh, I won't tell you all the rough story because Joanna will get on me. She said, Jack, just tell them the good stuff. It wasn't all good. It was tough, man. He had some rough times down there, man. Couldn't get a job, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. And then they formed their first National Spiritual Assembly. Yes. And I'm pioneering by then down in Samoa. And he starts writing me these sob stories because some woman on the NSA was running him nuts, you know. And he didn't like her and she didn't like him. She eventually withdrew from the faith. I think she was just angry at him. But he's having a hard time. He gave up everything now, and the girl he fell in love with walked off and married another guy. And he was living in Colombia, for God's sake, for heaven's sake. And here's this poor, brilliant doctor in this little old country nobody ever heard of, pioneering. New NSA. They go to Haifa, right? And he writes me this saddest letter you ever read in your life. Oh, Jack, I don't have a wife. What am I going to do? I wrote him back. I said, for God's sake, Hetty, do you think a woman's going to fall out of the clouds on you down there? They don't even know where it is. Go to some conference somewhere, meet a girl and marry her. I was up to here with it, all the sob story. That's the truth of life, man, when you're a pioneer. No games. Well, he wouldn't do it. Well, he had been converted to the faith when he was in medical school over there in Iran, you know. His father had died recently, and he didn't want to go back to Iran because he was afraid he's going to put him in the army. His mother writes, said, Hetty, you must come home. I need your help now. So he had to go. He went. Sure enough, they stuck him in the army for a while, but then he met Rizwan, this girl. Thank God. You see, Baha'u'llah heard his prayer. That hard-headed Hetty, you know. He won't move, so Baha'u'llah just sends him back to Iran. He meets the girl of his dream. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And will you come with me to Bailey? No, I'm on a teaching team in India, Dr. Mahajar's teaching team. No, I can't do that. By then, Hetty has learned to negotiate. He says, come. Dr. Mahajar's coming to the country in 2 months. Let's put it to him. He comes. He says, yeah, y'all get married. You both go. So they go. And God help us. She gets pregnant. The thing, both of them wanted more than anything else in the world was a baby. And she can't handle it. He takes her, doctors try and save her over here in Miami, and she loses the baby. All this suffering, man, up to here. And then Baha'u'llah decides he's really going to stick it to him. He makes him a counselor. God, you know, you really got to tick Baha'u'llah off to get stuck with that. You got all these Baha'is, and you're trying to make them love each other and get along and show unity. And here's old Hetty with all this stuff, and his wife having a hard time. Just made a counselor. And I'm sitting on the NSA back in the 60s in this country. And we're losing the teaching plan. All of a sudden, we get a letter from the Universal House of Justice. And they said, this pioneer down in this little country of British Honduras, you need to meet with him and negotiate with him. Now, I'm telling stuff out of, but Hetty's dead tonight. He can't get on me about it. One time when I told you he went to elect the House of Justice, 2 of my colleagues on the NSA were sitting on the same aisle with him, and they wouldn't talk to him because he's from a little old 2-bit country, and that's the truth of it. And it hurt Hetty. He just paralyzed if it hurt him so bad. So now, the NSA of the United States gets a letter from the House saying, you must negotiate with this pioneer. And he'll tell you how to win your plan. Can you believe that? This little short guy. And he has Bell's palsy. You know what that does to your face? You meet, here comes the doctor. Right? Yeah, sure. I'm sitting there. Rochester, well, not even meeting in Wilmette, reading in Rochester, Minnesota. And he said, we need to do this. What can you say when you're losing the whole ball game, man? And you got a pioneer from some little 2-bit country you never heard of. No. And he said, you need to do this. Here's this brilliant man taking all these wonderful writing books and bringing them down to the most simple teaching book ever conceived. They put it together down there in Atlanta. It hit the country. We won the plan. We won the plan. And when Hetty Ahmadiyya, just before he died at his pioneer post, his wife told me this. He said she called him. He called her. He was going to a meeting up in Meriday in the Yucatan. And said, come here, Rizwan. I want you to see something. I was in his apartment, a little cheap, know-nothing place down there. And he looked out and he described to Rizwan this beautiful garden he could see. This vision, this beautiful, beautiful. She didn't know what he's talking about. He goes to this meeting. You may know his story. Starts back home up there going to Orange Walk, across the Mexican border. There's a bridge over 95 foot of water. There's a hole at night in the middle of the bridge. They didn't have any light on it or nothing. A guard there, he said nothing to him. He fell through it. Hetty couldn't swim and he drowned. NSA sent me to represent them at his funeral. And I go there, and I'm thinking about this. And then we get a letter from the House of Justice. And they said, you know, we have 44, I think it's 44 national assemblies in the Western Hemisphere, in the Americas. Every NSA in the Americas have a memorial meeting for Hedy Hamadeh. Now I'm telling you, I knew the guy when he lost it all. And I knew him when he gained it all. And if ever I think of a pioneer, I think of that woman up there, Virginia Briggs. There's never, ever a day of my life that I don't say a prayer for Virginia. She's been dead and gone a long time now. But she was so much help to me when I arrived as a pioneer in the Pacific. And people are loving, but you got to talk their talk. Now, have you ever been to the Pacific Ocean in those islands? My God, all those little countries, there's a bunch of them on that list you got. Need help. Some of the best people in the world out there, but you just got to like them, man. And suppose you got some veils on you and you still arrive with a few veils. Baha'u'llah will get rid of them. You know how he got rid of mine? I'm on the plane. I land in Majuro in the Marshall Islands where this girl was at night about. I go down to Ponape. And Virginia's not there. That's our post. They send me around the little island. Ooh. It's mangrove swamp. I go up in a little boat. I am not even pioneer out there. I'm just out there, Gene. I just got there, right? I don't know that country. And you've been in Georgia up here. You've been in Georgia, right? Those red hills, same kind of stuff. The wettest place in the world. 400 inches of rain a year. 400 inches. I go up there, and here's this little Baha'i hut on stilts. They did have a corrugated iron roof. That's unusual. Most of them have, that stuff on it. That stuff. It had a Coleman lantern, too. That's a big deal out there. And I had a little teaching book from Hedy, So I gave it to them, and nature had its call, and they were the only people in that whole area who had an outhouse. Can you believe that? They don't normally have them. And I go. Yeah, I go. The great former member of the National Spiritual Assembly of the Baha'is of the United States, going to the outhouse in Pompeii. Big board member under the hand of the cause. Bill Sears met with me just before I left. Yeah. I get out there, and here's what happened. I finished my nature's call, started to get up, and I slipped and fell in all that horrible, horrible, horrible slop. Oh, God. Humiliated to the ground, man. Please, Baha'u'llah, don't let this happen to me. He did let it happen to me. I'm here to serve you, Baha'u'llah. Yes, and you need to be baptized in the faith. Well, I come easing back down. I was so ashamed of myself. It just hurt, man. I eased up to next to their little house, and they were all sitting around the lantern looking at a little teaching book. And I had one of these old big Samsonite suitcases, right? And I reached around and got it, and I pulled it out and tried to wash myself off. Fortunately, they had a 50-gallon drum and caught some water, right? I washed off best I could. And I was just so ashamed of myself. That's horrible. Now, nobody out there sleeps in a bed. I didn't sleep in a bed for 8 years on the floor. All right, there I am, sleeping, here to serve Baha'u'llah. And that's what happened to me. The next morning when I got up, I don't know how in the name of heaven they did this. Those people had dried those clothes, washed them, dried them, had ironed them, and there they were folded by my little bladder. My God, can you imagine how I felt? Most wonderful people in the world. And that was my introduction to them. Baha'u'llah loves pioneers. I came to the same island. I know you think I'm lying. I'm telling the truth. I went there with a woman named Anna Smithwick and Joy Benson. She lives up in Georgia now. We went to this little place called a Nas, a men's place. And here we are, Dr. Maharji comes and he's gone. He leaves us. And they don't have a movie or nothing in that place. And Joy and Anna had this little battery-powered projector showing a film strip of the World Center. And those people never see it. And they want to see it over and over and over. And I said, oh, God, let them quit. Over. Can we see it one more time? I go over here in the corner, the great Baha'i pioneer from the United States National Assembly. I said, oh, Baha'u'llah. It's cold, It's on the equator nearly. I got on a T-shirt, little shorts. Please, can you help me? Please. I look up, here's a big old white hog. If you're a country boy, you know what an OIC hog is, a big old white hog. She comes lumbering down about 250 pounds. Lays down, looks up at me. I look at that old hog and I cuddle up to her and sleep like a baby, man. And I'm telling you, those people love me. I was one of them. I was home. Now, I tell you that story not just because it's funny, but if you do arise to Pioneer not quite happy somewhere, that doesn't mean you're out of the ballgame. You just might want to switch to another field, play somewhere else. I saw Mahajer and I saw Featherstone repeatedly move people. He got them right where they felt good, and they served the faith. So now, my thought to you tonight is this, simple. I opened with that prayer. It wasn't by accident. I prayed a long time last night. I didn't sleep a wink. All night long, thinking about this meeting. What can I say to those people? They've heard every behind in the world. And this guy came to me last night, this Hedy Amadea. I hadn't thought of Hedy Amadea in 20 years. I just said, tell my story. I'm telling you, everybody in this room has a place in this faith. And some of your place is a pioneer post, not for all of you. But if it's in your heart, and that's between you and God, nobody else, think about it and talk with Barbara McCord tonight. She'll work with you, and Bahala will work with you. And you have no idea what a great adventure and a source of happiness, and the people you're going to meet the rest of your life, you'll thank God for.
Is there any remove of difficulty? Safeguard, yeah. Say praise be God, yeah. He's God. Yes, sir. And all are his servants, and all abide by his bidding. I would like to say that one more time. Did you hear me? Get here. Is there any remove of difficulties? Safeguard. Yeah, say praise be God, yeah. He's God, yes sir. And all are his servants, and all abide by his bidding. Yes they do. Here, say now sometimes I'm up and sometimes down. Sometimes almost level with the ground. I stepped in the water was cold. Chilled my body, but not my soul. He's all right. God is all right. Hey, hey, abide by his bidding. Yeah, abide by God's bidding. Yeah. Look at here. Is there any remove of difficulties? Say God, yeah. Say praise be God, yes sir. He's God, yeah, yeah. And all are his servants, and all, hey, 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 abide by his bidding. Yes, they do. Yes, they do, y'all. Play one time, fellas. Look at here. Is the hand remove of difficulties. Safeguard your. Say praise be God, yes sir. He's God and nobody but Jesus. And all his servants and all abide by his bidding, yeah. Abide by his bidding. Abide by his bidding, yeah. Abide by God's bidding, yeah. Abide by his bidding. Just abide by God's bidding.